The 2010s were a goldmine for conflicted fathers. Tough men with dark pasts whose main redeeming quality is the love of their kids, and they produced perhaps no tougher man, no darker past, than the... I'm going to attempt to give context for a 20-year-long gaming series now. I'm going to be glossing over a lot so we can get to the stuff I want to talk about today. Our rageful god of war began his journey in Greece, where he made a deal with Ares that led to him accidentally killing his own family. Kratos swore revenge and spent the next 3 or so games killing the entire Greek pantheon, while retaining his position as the world's angriest man. When his task was finished though, the world was seemingly plunged into chaos. Years later, we catch up to Kratos with a beard, a son, and a whole new pantheon. In the first game, Kratos bonds with his son Atreus, and the two become a loving team, and when we find them in the scene talked about today, the two have splintered. Kratos drove Atreus away into the arms of our main villain, Odin, and it's resulted in disaster for both of them. Now, before I get into it, I have to acknowledge that there's been plenty of discussion on Father Kratos, both when the first game was announced and when the duology was completed. Lots of praise for the newfound maturity of our main character, just a little backlash for his shift. For the record, I say maturity to mean Kratos has grown up, not to say that the series was once childish and can now be enjoyed by adults. Kratos was always a man of pathos and genuine struggle. He just does it with a little more solemnity now. Or, if you were to say it in a mean way.
Should I bring him a crown then? He still slays gods, but now he's sad about it?
Even if the Norns here mock Kratos, this growth is real. The 2018 game spent about 20 hours showing us that he can change, that the man whose previous goals always came back to vengeance could be a father, and a loving one at that. But Ragnarök tackles another beast altogether with Kratos. Can this change stick? Because no, Kratos doesn't go through as big a change in the sequel as he does in the original. He's not a new man by the end, but Kratos' journey in Ragnarök is still just as, if not more important. Sure, he can learn to care for his son, to team up with him effectively and to clearly communicate, but none of that means anything if he can't keep it going. Kratos' Norse journey is all about breaking cycles.
Must be better than this.
That has to mean he can maintain his change, not just perform it. And it's with all this that we can finally get to our actual G-damn scene. Kratos and Atreus have really been through it fighting in hell, the one hell of course, and have just defeated a creature not through Kratos' normal violent attacks, but with Atreus' heart and cleverness. Kratos goes to the door as he often does, and it suddenly hits him.
I have been falling back into my old ways. Angry, distrustful. With you, now and before. I chased you away.
Kratos is losing the fight. Not the physical one, of course, he could never, but the fight for his soul. He goes without seeing his son maybe a few days and all of a sudden he's back to his old ways, violence once again being his go-to method of dealing with problems. What's really great about this realization is that you, the player, are right along with him in these methods. Violence is always the correct option in God of War, and why shouldn't it be? It's made to be fun. Not only that, there really aren't any other mechanical options for the player to interact with. Just like Kratos, violence is all we know. But it's not all his fault. As Atreus readily admits, he's not so perfect without his father either. As with any failure of communication, the blame goes both ways. Atreus is reckless and rash without his father to guide him, and Kratos is rageful and violent without his son to temper him. And so the two strike a bargain. Not one of dependency on each other, but instead a bargain of remembrance. They each vow to always feel what it is that the other would advise in their current situation. Strength, guided by wisdom. It is at this point that Kratos does the unthinkable.
I am sorry.
An apology. An apology from the man who slaughtered entire pantheons. The man who slices and chops and punches his way to success. An apology from the man who barely knew his kid just one game before. An apology from a man who's winning the fight for his soul. And in turn, Atreus impresses with the perfect response.
Don't be sorry, Father. Be better.
An amazing callback to Kratos' earlier teachings.
We are not men. We are more than that. The responsibility is far greater. And you must be better than me. Understand?
Prompting one of 6 times Kratos smiles in the entire franchise. 6! And one is this stupidly witty response from a son who's all grown up now. Usually, I think I'd end the video there, but a missing piece here is why the scene speaks to us so strongly. Why it speaks to me so strongly. I think everyone has had interaction with a parent, especially a father, in which you feel so strongly that you've been wronged by them, but they just won't take the blame. A moment where you only need a few words from them to make you feel whole, but they just won't give it to you. And you'll likely see where I'm going with this, but I don't think Kratos is my dad. I love my dad, and he doesn't have Kratos' temper or need for redemption or even his beard. He's a good person. But what's special about this scene is it gives an extremely flawed father a chance to apologize, and he actually takes it. So while I don't think Kratos and my dad, and likely most dads, are even remotely comparable, I think it's just nice to know that if this man who has gone through so much, who seemingly has had the whole world telling him to remain the same, can take the opportunity to say, "I'm sorry?" Well, maybe they all can.